now that the playoffs are over, I thought it'd be fun to look at one of the most painful and difficult to watch.
When you're watching this should be Radio Show 101.
Known as the Smite.
It is Radio Show 101. Hey.
Finals for the Clarence Campbell Conference, or what we probably now call a second-round Western Conference playoff matchup. And this was the Battle of Alberta during peak days of the Oilers-Flames rivalry. The Oilers, as powered by a 215-point scoring Wayne Gretzky, had just won the President's Trophy and swept what was then a best-of-5 round one series against Vancouver. The Flames, who went 40-31-9, remember there were only 80 games back then, were being powered by many legends of their own, including Lanny McDonald and good Nova Scotian boy Al MacInnis. Calgary was coming into the round against Edmonton, not only ending the season on a hot streak, but also wiping out the Winnipeg Jets in 3 games. However, pretty much since joining the NHL in the late 70s, the Oilers had dominated the Battle of Alberta. And I mean, this was one of the best hockey teams ever assembled. Think about this. The Oilers joined the NHL from the WHA in 79 and 80. They then go on to beat the Islanders dynasty in 84, repeat in 85, followed by wins in 87, 88, and 90. These Oilers teams had 7 Hall of Famers, including Glenn Anderson, Paul Coffey, Grant Fuhr, Gary Curry, Mark Messier, most recently Kevin Lowe, and of course the Great One himself. And this 86 season would see Gretzky get the most points ever in NHL history in one season. So Calgary is facing Goliath, and it was certainly a spirited matchup. Not only was there the expected Albertan brotherly love, but score-wise, Calgary and Edmonton split the first 6 games. Calgary winning Game 1, Edmonton winning Game 2 in overtime, then flip-flopping going all the way to Game 7 in Edmonton. In the third period, it's tied 2-2 when Oilers player Steve Smith would collect the puck behind the net and accidentally
Connor Bedard shall be called
into his own net.
The next great one!
Game-winning series-clinching goal. This series is, as of this year, the only time Calgary's defeated Edmonton in the playoffs. The Oilers got their revenge in 88, this time when Calgary was the President's Trophy winner, and again in 91, with the Oilers win in 2022 being the only other playoff series since. In 86, the Flames would make it all the way to the Stanley Cup, but they'd run into the absolute force of nature that was a 20-year-old Patrick Waugh, with the Montreal Canadiens winning in 5 games. Smith's own goal would essentially break up the Oilers dynasty. They'd win 2 Stanley Cups before this year, 2 after this year. Had they won in 86, they could have had 5 in a row. The image of Steve Smith immediately after the play is a very famous one. But I mean, the story is as much new Hall of Famer Mike Vernon shutting the door for the rest of the third. It was so bad that even the Flames said they had mixed emotions after the game. Famously, in 87, after the Oilers won the series, Wayne Gretzky would give it immediately to Steve Smith. And as a bit of poetry, after the Oilers would get 2 more Stanley Cups, Calgary would grab one in 89 before Edmonton would grab one final one in 1990. Well, that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. This will be a peak off-season of fun classic hockey content for you guys. Let me know what you'd like to see me cover next. Definitely want to talk about Patrick Waugh's MVP postseason in 86.
So, I didn't think I needed to.
I would be mad
I know how
if
easily it picks up my hair every
I
time I dry
were
it. It only takes a
McDavid.
minute. Look at that. The hefty spots are actually
Is McDavid angry?
even for him. Wow, you'll love Swiffer. Or you're
Why
looking
did you say McDavid?
Last night was the NHL Awards, and to the surprise of nobody, Connor McDavid ran away with the Hart Trophy for League MVP. However, what should have been essentially a formality was made controversial by the actions of one media writer. Take a look at this table that shows Hart voting in 2023. How it works is media members vote on their choice for Hart winner through a preferential voting system, which is somehow better than the federal election system in the...
Let's look. Hart Trophy winning. I think Matthew... Wait, what's a Hart Trophy? I think Matthew Tkachuk. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm a fan of Matthew Tkachuk. No. He improved. He changed the league. And hopefully next year Connor Bedard can win the Hart Trophy, and the Norris, is that what the trophy is for the best?
A preferential voting system, which is somehow better than
Rookie of the Year.
The federal election system in the U.S. or Canada. Basically how it works is you choose your top 5 winners, you rank them 1 through 5, and as you can see on this table...
Okay, my top 5 winners are Matthew Tkachuk, David Pastrnak, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, Linus Ullmark, Jack Hughes, Connor Hellebuyck, Mitch Marner, Sidney Crosby, Austin Matthews, Erik Karlsson, Al Peterson, Nichikaka Kucherov, and then Sorokin. I don't think Sorokin's deserved.
195 media members ranked Connor McDavid as the first choice for the Hart, all but one individual who put him at 5th. And honestly, people can make the argument it doesn't matter, but to me it does. I think that having unanimous Hart Trophy winner on your career resume is an incredible accomplishment. McDavid was the unanimous winner in 2021, but that was different. It was the COVID season. There were only 100 voters, and he would have been the first person to do it in a full season since Gretzky in 82. In law, we have what's known as the reasonableness test, or sometimes the reasonable person test, and the question is, are the actions being evaluated within the range of what we could expect to see from a reasonable person? And there are a bunch of ways to determine this. For one, being so far off from the rest of your colleagues hints that maybe this isn't a reasonable take, but a lot of the time the discussion focuses on whether there's some rationale behind the decision. In this case, we don't know because we haven't heard from the media member yet. A lot of people accuse the media member of doing this for attention, and that's immediately where I jump to as well. I mean, McDavid had arguably the best season in 30 years. He has the most points in a season by an individual not with the last name Lemieux, Gretzky, or Yzerman. If I'm being brutally honest, I think putting McDavid at 2nd place is probably not reasonable. Putting him at 5 seems beyond the pale. There are calls to remove the credentials of the individual who made this vote, and honestly, I'd get behind it. HF Boards had a good breakdown of some of his past, I guess I'll call it erratic voting. He didn't include McDavid from 2019 to 2022, including last.
Maybe I should go up to Harry and be like, hey, can I learn how to skate? Sometimes New York can be crazy.
Here, where he was on pretty much every ballot. We had Bergeron 4th on the Selke voting. You know, whatever. I'm of mixed feelings, I guess. I don't want there to be like a forced vote in the Professional Hockey Writers Association. You know, there needs to be a diversity of opinions, but it seems like this guy is just so far off the mark compared to what's standard, and I think it's a really unfortunate effect this year. I will say I've seen some people really railing on this guy. Jeff Villette said, if I were the PHWA, I'd be wondering if I want to keep giving ballots to a guy that is clearly treating them as a self-promotion / shock value vessel. Maybe it's a good idea to not give him the satisfaction of his name being out there this time because it's clearly what he wants. I will say that's an incredibly ungenerous thing to say about one of your colleagues, and I guess I consider myself within the periphery of hockey media. I don't consider this guy a colleague, but I wouldn't blatantly say that about someone who hasn't had the chance to defend himself. And I was reading a lot of forums today. People who know the individual who I've went out of my way not to name in this video have said, listen, this guy has some different takes on hockey, but he's 100% not doing it for attention. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down below. This one was tough to watch. As someone who struggles with names, I was thrown immediately into the soul of Carey Price during this moment when he forgot the name of Montreal's draft pick, David Reinbacher. And you can just tell he feels so bad because this is David's big moment, and obviously Carey messed it up a little bit. Honestly, though, not a big deal, but I feel for Carey. We're going to talk tonight, however, about the rest of the NHL draft. Honestly, no surprise. Connor Bedard, probably the most touted draft pick since Matthews, maybe even McDavid, went first overall. It was unimaginable that anyone else would go first at this point, honestly. Second was Leo Carlsson. I'm not going to pretend to be super familiar with the player. He plays in the Swedish Hockey League. Not something I see a lot of. And definitely the debate between him and Fantilli was a hot one. I've seen Fantilli play. He impressed me. I think Columbus could end up being one of the big winners of this draft, getting him at third. Not to say that he'll be better than the two players picked before him, just that this is such a deep draft. He could end up being a bona fide superstar, and based on his size and physicality, he could make an impact immediately. But I think a pick that a lot of people will be discussing is Matvei Michkov at number 7. Michkov has had a weird draft ranking, largely due to what people call the Russian factor. 2 years ago, he was seen as the likely second overall pick behind Bedard, potentially even challenging Bedard. His KHL numbers have been really good for a draft-eligible player, but honestly, the invasion of Ukraine and what people call the Russian factor has thrown a lot of doubt into him as a draft pick, especially because he's under contract with his KHL team until 2026. Who knows what will happen geopolitically? There's the chance he doesn't come over at all. Plus, the NHL team won't be controlling his development for the next few years. So, it's extraordinarily risky, but for the Flyers, who will most likely be rebuilding until that time, there is the potential for tremendous upside. He also showed up at the draft, which I've got to imagine was probably some comfort to Danny Briere and the rest of the Flyers. I've got to say, looking at the draft order before tonight, this screamed like an Arizona Coyotes pick to me. They end up choosing Dmitry Simashev. I mean, the player was stunned here. He's a big defenseman, but he wasn't ranked super highly. I think Habs fans were similarly shocked. That could be why Gary was so surprised at the beginning. Another pick that I've seen a lot of discussion about is Zach Benson, who went at 13th for the Sabres, and what people are saying could be a potential steal. He's a smaller player at 5'10", and it seems pretty likely that that's why he fell out of perhaps top 5, top 10 ranking. That being said, if there's a team he could go to, Buffalo, with their massive players, maybe they'll work. But that's all I've got for today. If you were one of the teams that were in potentially on Michkov, but chose to forego him for a more stable pick, what do you think? I look forward to reading all of your comments down below.
Yeah, that's like the smallest that I know. I like that one. No.